going on, everybody? Culturedog Sam Hatch back here with another Blu-ray Spotlight video. And I'd meant to put this out last week, but things held me back. I just wanted to share quickly and throw down again on Spectre. Now, there were a number of different releases of this, including Steelbooks. I was just seeing the Wasting Money one. I'd done a video of the Best Buy Steelbook, but I figured I would opt to get the Target version because it has a bonus disc. Strangely, with the Blu-ray, the bonus disc is a DVD, but still, it's got some cool extra features on it, and I figured I'd check it out. So, Spectre, the 24th official EON Productions James Bond film, and the 4th with Daniel Craig in the role. I'd done a pretty long review when the film had come out initially, and since then I'd gone back to see it in IMAX and watched this now a few times. So I've had a chance to kind of sit with the film a little bit and reassess and figure out where I position it within my listing, my ranking of James Bond films, which I still have to do. I've been meaning to do that for a while. But I do really enjoy this film. I enjoy it more than Skyfall. I finally assessed for sitting with things for a little bit. And I'll tell you in the other videos eventually how I rank it amongst the Daniel Craig films. But briefly, if you hadn't seen my other review and you don't know much about the film, in this film you begin in media res in Mexico, where James Bond is on a mission and following a trail of breadcrumbs that eventually leads to Rome. And you're not sure why he's doing this, and there's a lot of mayhem and carnage, of course, left in his wake. And this is ruffling the feathers of MI6 back home. Ralph Fiennes, now stepping into the role as M, is completely overwhelmed by not only Bond's actions, but the fact that Andrew Scott's character, Max Denby, is threatening to usurp MI6 and create this new global security network that theoretically could go essentially very wrong. Interesting topic considering what happened to Sony prior to this film coming out and the script getting leaked and all that stuff. So the cloud is super safe, essentially. So there's that going on. Meanwhile, Bond is concurrently running this mission against everybody's wishes. And the cool thing is it gives it a chance for Dami Harris's Moneypenny and Ben Wishaw's Q to get involved, get out in the field a little bit, or at least lend an ear while Bond is out in the field. And Bond starts tracing these paths that lead back to this shady organization, just like Quantum was and Quantum of Solace. And this is something a little bit bigger. So hence Spectre from the original series is now back and being reworked in a little bit. Christoph Waltz plays Franz Oberhauser, who is a very mysterious individual and is connected to Spectre. Monica Bellucci's got a small but interesting role in this film as your beleaguered widow, and Bond's appearance in her life is potentially fatal, but it could potentially save her as well. And Léa Seydoux arrives as the primo Bond girl of the film and reluctant to tag along with James Bond. She's pretty capable on her own, which is cool. But they don't overplay that. It's not too much like they're going to spin off her character into a side film like they were threatening to do with Jinx and Die Another Day. And Dave Bautista is really cool. I kind of wish he had gotten a speaking role because he never gets to talk. And he may say a word or two in this film, but really not that much. So it's just a travelogue as always. James Bond traveling around trying to find out what's going on. And then meanwhile, there's that whole kind of backstory with MI6 falling apart and pretty much the status quo being turned on its ear. So that was one of my problems with the films. And after Quantum of Solace had wrapped up, that was what I was expecting the next film was going to be, was a mission film. Everything had been established. All you had to do was introduce Moneypenny and Q, and you're pretty much up and running. But they decided to take 2 steps back and reboot everything in Skyfall. So I was like, all right, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, despite the fact that I really enjoyed Skyfall, and I thought Roger Deakins' cinematography on it was the best the series has ever had. But then when this came out, they're like, whoa, we're still not ready for a mission movie. Everything's got to be up in the air. So much like Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, that whole kind of scenario where the status quo of the main character's home turf is being threatened. And that's the thing, that it works every once in a while, but I really don't need to see it in every movie. I understand that the world can be in danger, but It gets tiresome after a while if the world of the character itself is always in upheaval. I enjoy it far more when M is safe and sound in his very posh wooden repository in Universal Exports, and Bond's home base is set in stone. I appreciate that, and now there's always a new location where Q is hiding and all this sort of stuff. So I think they really need to establish that bedrock, and hopefully the next film they'll be able to do that. But I don't know. There's a lot of thematic material in this film that they're going to have to mine in the next one, so things still might be crazy and topsy-turvy in the world of James Bond. We'll see. So that was one complaint, but really not a deal breaker at all. And then my other complaint was about one of the villainous characters possibly having a connection to Bond, and that kind of rubs me the wrong way. That is used a lot, after Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, etc. From that point on, it's used sometimes as a shortcut to meaning, even if it isn't ultimately very impactful and doesn't really illustrate anything more about the characters, etc. It's just kind of there for shock value. So I was really twitchy about that. I was worried about some certain aspects of how the film played out. And they did play out similar to what I was thinking, but again, there wasn't really much of a deal breaker. And then my third problem was that all of the villains in the series have been increasingly godlike. And when you got to the point of Skyfall, Silva was essentially a digital god. He could do whatever he wanted. His plans were immaculately, unbelievably mapped out so that he knew what was going to happen in any split second, essentially. So now Oberhauser takes it even to a next step above that. So they're pushing up against the ceiling. What can happen next, unless James Bond goes up against an actual deity? So those three things had me twitchy. But watching this film numerous times now, there's just so damn much to enjoy in this film. The opening in Mexico City is absolutely one of the best openings in the entire series. From the source music to the kind of Birdman-esque roving shot, to just the style of it, and yeah, fantastic stuff. And so many of the set pieces are great. The stuff in Rome is fantastic. Austria is fantastic. There's these nice references to previous films in the franchise, but it's not done so over the top like it was in films like Die Another Day, etc. So, and then, Morocco is delightful in this. So there's a lot of really, really delicious moments to savor. So that was the thing. While I did have 3 or 4 complaints, those were just left simmering beneath everything. Everything that happens in this film above that satisfies really well. Thomas Newman's score, I kind of wish David Arnold had managed to stick around a little bit longer, but Thomas Newman, when he does nail it, he pulls it off pretty good. So yeah, I kind of reassessed and sat on this a little bit and watched it multiple times, and I definitely enjoy it more than Skyfall. So, Spectre, hooray! Let's check out the AV quality. So I mentioned before that Roger Deakins had been the DP on Skyfall, and I thought it was the best cinematography going all the way back to maybe On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And this time you have Hoyt van Hoytema taking over the reins, and it is definitely a more earthy film. That was the nice thing. There was a juxtaposition in Skyfall. There was the stark moments. There were the super neon high-rise moments. Then there was the earthy glow of the final section. So there was a bit of everything to love in there, and it was all done amazingly well. In this one, it's more earthy all the way through. And it definitely is a challenging transfer to bring to home video. That was one of the things I was amazed about the Skyfall transfer, is that some of the stuff at Skyfall towards the end was, the shadow detail was amazing, and there wasn't any macro blocking or any black crush or anything like that. It was just really well done. So in this, there are a lot of challenging scenes in kind of murky environments, in a cabin in Austria for one, and some other kind of dusky shots and nighttime shots. There was a few moments where it looked like things were going to go a little weird in some of the darker portions of the film. But yeah, that said, there's a lot of shadow detail, and there's some good contrast in itself. It looked certainly very similar to what I had seen on different screenings of the film, both in IMAX and regular digital presentations in the theater. So no real problems there. So it may not be the most colorful of Bond films, but it still holds its own. There are a few different audio options, but of course the DTS-HD Master Audio 7.1 is the one everyone's going to be digging for, and there's a lot of activity going on in this sucker. The opening sequence is so much great stuff, from the environs of the Day of the Dead celebration to the band was at Tambuco doing the street performances, and as the kind of like one-shot moment of us following Bond through this hotel progresses, you hear all sorts of different music going on within the lobby of the hotel, and it's just so cool right off the bat. It's very immersive, and of course a lot of the explosive scenes, the chase scenes with the cars sound great. The train scene, there's a fantastic train scene with a nice, quiet dinner moment, and then a really amazing fight scene, which harkens back, of course, to Red Grant in From Russia with Love. That stuff is really impactful. But the thing I like about some of the Sam Mendes Bond films is that they have these kind of quiet moments. Birmingham, it's the same sort of thing Michael Mann does well, Christopher Nolan does well, and there's this kind of calm, quiet. Even the chase scene in with the Jaguar versus the Aston Martin in Rome there's a kind of ambient cool to that scene underneath it. And I really appreciate that. So it's not all just histrionics and over the top, bombastic action. But when there is over-the-top bombastic action, it sounds great. There's, Bond chasing down some villains in Austria in a plane. Sounds amazing. And, yeah, lots of surround activity, etc. What you'd expect from a James Bond film. So not too much in the way of extra features, deleted scenes, no Sam Mendes commentary track, no Daniel Craig commentary track, etc. There is a fairly hefty featurette that's really nice about the opening Mexico City scene. So that's about maybe 20 minutes or so. And it gives you a feel for how many extras they had to cast for the film, and the amount of costumery and effort they had to put into pulling that whole opening scene off. The pre-credit scene is fantastic, and so it was a good idea to show at least a featurette of them putting that together. And then of course the helicopter scene towards the end of it, showing how that was performed and all that. So I thought that was fun. There's also some video blogs and a gallery, but nothing too amazing. But inside there's a bonus disc. And the bonus disc gets into more about the music and Sam Smith creating the Writings on the Wall song, and it shows you how the opening credits with Writings on the Wall were created. You get to see a lot of Daniel Kleinman's work as he's putting it together, and all the elements that it really is like another movie within the movie. And so the amount of shooting that you have to do to create these music video credit sequences is pretty amazing, and so you get a real good feel for that. And then there's also the music video for Writings on the Wall, which I actually saw in the theater the first time I saw the film. They actually showed it before the film started. So it would have been cool if they had been in Blu-ray, but it's interesting enough to have that stuff on DVD, and I thought that was a better option than getting the Steelbook. So Spectre definitely satisfies on home video, and I'll be taking this for a spin numerous times. The slipcover can get a little shredded at times if you have stickers or something like that, so beware if you don't want the foil kind of to come off. But yeah, definitely glad to have that in my collection, and I'll be doing some more James Bond videos in the future for sure. So thanks for hanging out. Hopefully you guys are having a great week, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.